There's an unwritten rule when superheroes meet. Before the team up, there has to be a dust-up. While the heroes eventually fight side by side to defeat the bad guys, there's always a scuffle before they put their differences aside. With Captain Marvel set to tip the scales back in favor of the good guys in Endgame, it seems inevitable that her first fight might be with one or more of the Avengers. Despite having known each other since the 90s as far as we know, Nick Fury hasn't mentioned his Kree warrior ace in the hole to any of the current Avengers. It wasn't until aircraft started falling out of the sky and people started turning to dust that Fury pulled out his space pager and made the call for the plasma blasting superhero. Fury had that pager in his pocket the whole time. He didn't ring that bell when the Chitauri attacked. He didn't make the call when Ultron tried to knock humanity out of existence with a city-sized wrecking ball, and when his carefully assembled Avengers started fighting amongst themselves, he sat the whole affair out. It wasn't even at the first sign of Thanos' Q-ships that Fury made the call. Maybe he thought Earth's mightiest heroes were up to the challenge until the snap actually happened and he pulled the trigger on Plan B. The problem being that Plan A and Plan B don't know each other. What Captain Marvel knows, presumably, is that Earth is in trouble and all other sources of recourse have failed. What the remaining Avengers know is that outside of Thor, nothing good has come from outer space. Even Rocket's going to be a push on the good-bad scale, especially without his Guardian companions to, reel in his more kleptomaniacal tendencies. With a super soldier hero summoned to Earth to save the day from an unknown threat and a beaten group of superheroes who have just taken a beating from beings from outer space, Captain Marvel might not be accepted with open arms. As Redditor Adrami Lekaishma brought to our attention, at least that's how we think they say their name, an Avenger versus Avenger fight isn't an uncommon occurrence either. We don't even have to go that deep to find an example of such a thing. When the unlikely superhero trio of Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and Iron Man end up on Titan to fight Thanos, the first people they run across are Star-Lord and the Guardians of the Galaxy minus Groot, Rocket, and of course, Gamora. Without much in the way of an introduction, the heroes immediately go toe-to-toe, resulting in Spider-Man with Star-Lord's gun to his head. After a few pop culture references let the teams know that they're on the same side, the two groups team up and formed a plan to take down the Mad Titan, and getting the gauntlet off of him. Yeah, Star-Lord really screwed that one up. With Tony Stark lost in space, he's unlikely to be the first one to fight Captain Marvel. In fact, she's an odds-on favorite to rescue the lost Avenger, but there are some others she could get to scuffle with. Thor's the most obvious choice as the hottest-headed Avenger, but after the loss of his dad, his hammer, his home, and his brother, all one right after the other, he'll either be angrier or more reserved, but either way, he could end up bringing the hammer down on the stranger from outer space. As arguably the most powerful Avenger overall, establishing where Captain Marvel ranks by having the two square off would make sense. Captain America isn't generally prone to punching first and asking questions later, but if he feels like someone's being threatened, he'll step in without hesitation, and as we know, he can do that all day. If Captain Marvel runs afoul of one of Captain America's friends, we could see the two captains fighting against each other before fighting side by side. With the torch almost assuredly passing in this film, it would be a fitting nod to the future of the MCU. It might, however, be more complicated than that. As we mentioned, Nick Fury waited until the last second to summon Danvers back to Earth. One of the things we know about Fury is that he has contingency plans for his contingency plans and an extra set of plans just in case those plans also go wrong. What we're trying to say is that the man does a lot of planning. It stands to reason that when it comes to Captain Marvel and the pager, Nick Fury had a specific set of plans. With Fury now a pile of dust, he doesn't have the ability to call an audible to adjust Captain Marvel's plans or communicate with her about the situation. This means she'll stay on mission, whatever that mission is. Has Fury kept her up to date on the issues facing S.H.I.E.L.D. or the Avengers Initiative? Does she know what Hydra is or the Sokovia Accords? Chances are that she'll hit up S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters to catch herself up. Last time she was there, Fury was in good standing and Hydra was part of a history lesson. This means that an unknown alien will show up and then start accessing sensitive secret data at an already compromised facility looking up some of Earth's greatest threats. While Captain America's no longer in good standing with the authorities on Earth, it would stand to reason that someone coming from space and looking through Fury's files might raise some concerns for him, causing the two captains to square off. While we don't know what the ultimate personality of Captain Marvel will shape up to be in the MCU, we have a pretty good idea of what the personalities are of the characters that remain. All of the Avengers, in one way or another, feel an obligation to protect those who can't protect themselves from outsized threats and a sense of duty to do the right thing. The problem being that they don't always agree on how to do the right thing or what, in fact, the right thing is. We do know from one of the taglines of the Captain Marvel movie that this Kree captain's going to, at some point, question the leadership that she's been fighting for this entire time. Telling someone that she's not going to fight their war, she was going to end it. She'll at least share Fury's authority-bucking style that insists on doing things their way. Likewise, Captain America's pretty headstrong, willing to go against his former teammates because he believed his friend, even making a stand in Wakanda to protect Vision from having to sacrifice himself. What this can end up meaning is that when Captain Marvel arrives on Earth, she's going to want things to happen a certain way, and she might not have the time to catch the terrestrials up on how things are done when it comes to cosmic entities. This means that even though the various heroes might know that they're on the same side, they might end up on different ends of the ring when Captain Marvel doesn't want to take the time to explain how things are done to the idealistic Captain America who's willing to take a stand for the least of us. An outside contender might be Clint Barton in his new identity as Ronin. Barton appears to be harboring a few bad feelings following the snap, and the Ronin identity in the comics is born of more than a little strife in the life of the Archer. He might not be keen on being told what to do from yet another visitor from space. There's even another possibility that might put people who otherwise may be allies at odds, without Captain Marvel having a plan set in place, but Earth's mightiest heroes having one instead. One of the more prevailing theories regarding the Endgame is that the Avengers, whether it's through time travel, the quantum realm, or some combination of the two, might end up trying to gather the Infinity Stones on their own, perhaps even having a new gauntlet made. For a group of heroes new to the idea of Infinity Stones, that might make obvious sense. The gauntlet had the power to destroy half of existence and walk through Earth's mightiest heroes with ease. So it stands to reason that the Infinity Stones could undo it, even if that's not the case. Even if they think destroying the stones would bring about the resolution they need, they'd first need the stones. If Captain Marvel shows up to Earth to find that some costume characters have gathered or are gathering some Infinity Stones, this might put them on the path to trading blows. The space-weary Kree warrior is going to have more than a passing understanding of not only the stones, but in all likelihood, the Mad Titan. After all, it's the Kree Accuser who turns to Thanos after the Kree ended their war with the Nova Corps too early for his liking. Like Gandalf in the Rings of Power, Danvers might believe that there's no such thing as good hands for an Infinity Stone, and no matter how good their intentions, she'll need to take those stones away like you would take a book of matches away from a kid. But for the Avengers, who see this as their only hope to get their friends and family back, they're not going to be as keen to giving up that hope just because some space lady said so. This is relatively fitting as it's a best case scenario since we'll have the new, most powerful Avenger face off against all of the remaining Avengers. This isn't unprecedented in the MCU either. When one Loki, the god of mischief, showed up in Germany telling people that they were born to be ruled, while Cap and the others could agree that Loki was a threat, they also needed him to find out what the rest of the plan was and what he'd done with the Tesseract. Thor, having lived with his brother this entire time, knew what manner of mayhem and mischief he could get up to. So Thor goes about fighting the pre-assembled Avengers, assuring them they don't know the danger they face by having Loki. This kind of conflict is a staple of the superhero dust-up before the team-up. There's one final way that heroes end up fighting each other before teaming up and taking down their common enemy, and that's through deception on the part of the villain. While it doesn't seem likely that Captain Marvel's going to be taking any advice from Thanos on who's good and bad, Thanos still has people and influence left in the universe. If in the process of his retirement down on the farm, he knows that the Kree soldier from the tiny blue dot on the far end of the Milky Way galaxy is coming to Earth, and that the remaining Avengers are assembling a plan to undo all of his hard work, he might tip the scales a little and convince one or both that the other side is up to no good. With the stakes being exactly half of all life in the universe, it might not be something either side is willing to wait on, so they'd start fighting immediately. Once again, this is a tactic that they've encountered before. This is another scenario that puts all of the Avengers against Captain Marvel, which would mirror another big team-up battle that happened not once but twice, when the Hulk has found himself trying to put his teammates on the wrong end of a classic Hulk smashing, once on the helicarrier and the other time in Africa in search of Ultron. It did a good job of demonstrating exactly how powerful and unstoppable the Hulk is in comparison to the rest of the Avengers, and how they, working together, can overcome the odds. This means it's another opportunity to demonstrate exactly how powerful Captain Marvel is in comparison to the greatest the MCU has to offer. And that's why Captain Marvel might end up fighting an Avenger in Endgame. What do you think might cause Danvers to fight an Avenger? Do you think that she's gonna team up right away? Let us know in the comments section below. And don't forget, subscribe to CBR for more MCU content. Thanks for watching.